Welcome in, everybody, to another deep dive. Today we're going somewhere mysterious. I mean, really mysterious. Please like, subscribe, and comment.
Ooh, mysterious.
Yeah, and a little spooky, too. We're talking about the Lake Michigan Triangle. Have you heard of it?
Oh, yeah, the Great Lakes' most chilling mystery, right?
You got it. So many people requested this one. We've got a whole stack of listener questions, some historical accounts, news reports, and even some scientific papers about this area.
Yeah, it seems like everyone wants to know what's really going on out there.
For sure. So we're going to try to get to the bottom of it.
Let's dive in.
All right. So first things first, what exactly are we talking about when we say the Lake Michigan Triangle?
Well, it's not as famous as, say, the Bermuda Triangle.
Right.
But it's this area in Lake Michigan with a pretty eerie reputation.
Definitely eerie. It's like a zone where things just vanish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ships, planes, people.
Yeah, and not just like a couple of incidents. We're talking about a pattern of unexplained disappearances stretching back over a century.
And that's what makes it so fascinating, you know? You start digging into these stories, and you can't help but wonder if there's something more to it than just coincidence.
Totally. So let's get specific geographically. Where are the boundaries of this so-called triangle?
Well, the points of the triangle are generally thought to be Manitowoc, Wisconsin, up north, Ludington, Michigan on the east coast, and then down to Benton Harbor, Michigan on the southern end.
So it's a pretty significant chunk of the lake.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking about hundreds of square miles.
Okay, so we've got the location, we've got the reputation.
Yeah.
What are some of the most well-known incidents associated with the Lake Michigan Triangle?
Oh, there are so many. But some of the early cases really stand out. Like the Thomas Hume, a schooner that vanished back in 1891.
Yeah, I read about that one. 7 crew members just gone.
Oof, vanished without a trace,
Eh.
and no wreckage was ever found.
Which is strange in itself, right? I mean, Lake Michigan is in the ocean.
Right, it's big, but it's not that big. You'd think something would turn up eventually.
Exactly. And then there's the Roosevelt, a schooner that was found capsized in 1921.
Yeah, that one's really bizarre because the ship itself wasn't damaged.
Right, it was just flipped over, like something just suddenly knocked it on its side.
And again, no sign of the crew.
Just gone. Another mystery for the books.
And these are just 2 examples. There are dozens more stories of ships, planes, even individual people disappearing in the Lake Michigan Triangle.
So how do we even begin to make sense of all this? Where do we start?
Well, we have to start with the obvious. The lake itself, Lake Michigan, is vast, deep, and notoriously unpredictable.
Right. It's known for its sudden storms, rogue waves, and those thick fog banks that can roll in out of nowhere.
Exactly. And those factors alone could explain at least some of the disappearances.
Makes sense. I mean, if you're caught in a sudden squall or lose visibility in a thick fog, it's easy to see how things could go wrong quickly.
Especially in the days before modern navigation and communication technology.
Right, when you were really at the mercy of the elements.
Exactly. But even with today's technology, Lake Michigan can still be a dangerous place.
Yeah, those waves can get massive, and even experienced boaters can get caught off guard.
Absolutely. So natural forces definitely play a role in the mysteries of the Lake Michigan Triangle.
Okay. But that doesn't explain everything, does it?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? Are there other factors at play? Something beyond just bad weather and rough waters? Something more unexplained?
Like what?
Well, there are a lot of theories out there. Some people believe that the triangle is a hotspot for magnetic anomalies.
Magnetic anomalies. Now that sounds intriguing. What exactly are we talking about here?
Well, they're areas where the Earth's magnetic field is distorted.
Okay.
And some researchers believe that these distortions could affect navigation equipment, especially compasses.
So ships could be getting thrown off course without even realizing it.
Exactly. They could be sailing into dangerous waters or running aground without any warning.
And if that happens in a remote area or during a storm, the chances of survival would be slim.
Right. And the wreckage might never be found.
That's a pretty chilling thought.
It is. And it's one of the theories that has been put forward to explain some of the disappearances in the Lake Michigan Triangle.
Okay, so we've got treacherous waters and possible magnetic anomalies. What else is on the table?
Well, this is where things get a little more out there, but we can't talk about the Lake Michigan Triangle without mentioning the paranormal.
Right, the UFOs, the strange lights, the ghost ships.
Yeah, all of that. And there are a lot of people who believe that these things are connected to the disappearances.
So let's start with the lights. There have been numerous reports of strange lights over Lake Michigan, right? Especially in and around the triangle.
Oh, yeah. Tons of reports, some of them going back decades.
And these aren't just your average, I saw something weird in the sky kind of reports. We're talking about multiple witnesses, sometimes even radar confirmations.
Right. And the descriptions of these lights are often pretty bizarre.
Like how?
Well, people report seeing orbs, glowing spheres, lights that move in erratic patterns or change color.
And these lights have been seen by credible witnesses too, right? Like pilots, law enforcement officers, even scientists.
Exactly. So it's hard to dismiss all of these reports as just imagination or misidentification.
So what are we supposed to make of these lights? Are they evidence of extraterrestrial activity? Some kind of interdimensional portal?
Well, those are some of the more out there theories.
Right.
But there are also more grounded explanations, like unusual atmospheric phenomena or even military aircraft testing.
Okay. But even if some of those sightings can be explained away, there are still a lot of reports that remain unexplained.
Absolutely. And that's what keeps people fascinated by the Lake Michigan Triangle. It's that sense of mystery, that unknown element that keeps us wondering if there's something more to it than meets the eye.
Okay, so we've got strange lights. What about the ghost ships? Is that just maritime folklore, or is there something more to it?
Well, the legend of the ghost ships is definitely one of the most intriguing aspects of the Lake Michigan Triangle.
Yeah, I've heard about the SS Bannockburn. It's supposed to be this phantom ship that appears before storms, a kind of harbinger of doom.
Exactly, sort of like the Flying Dutchman of the Great Lakes.
And there have been other reports of ghost ships, too, right? Like spectral schooners sailing through the fog or glowing vessels that dissipate as quickly as they appear.
Right, and these stories have been passed down for generations, adding to the mystique of the triangle.
So are these just tall tales, or could there be some truth to them?
Well, it's hard to say for sure. Some people believe that these ghost ships are the remnants of vessels that were lost in the triangle, their spectral forms doomed to sail the waters forever.
Like their spirits are trapped or something?
Exactly. While others believe that they're simply optical illusions or misinterpretations of natural phenomena like fog banks or reflections of light on the water.
Right, so there are explanations for everything if you're willing to believe them.
Exactly. But the beauty of the Lake Michigan Triangle is that it allows us to embrace the mystery, to consider the possibility that there are things in this world that we don't fully understand.
Yeah, and sometimes it's fun to just let our imaginations run wild and explore the unknown.
Absolutely. So even if we never find definitive answers to the mysteries of the Lake Michigan Triangle, the journey of exploration is just as fascinating.
Well said. So let's keep exploring.
Nah.
We've only just scratched the surface of this mystery, and there's so much more to uncover.
I can't wait to dive deeper.
Me too. We'll be back soon with more intriguing stories, theories, and eyewitness accounts from the Lake Michigan Triangle. Stay tuned.
You know, it's easy to get caught up in all the paranormal stuff.
Right.
But we really should emphasize just how dangerous Lake Michigan itself is.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's not a body of water to be trifled with.
Not at all. I mean, think about it. It's the second largest of the Great Lakes by volume.
Wow, that's huge.
It is, and it's deep, too, like hundreds of feet deep in some places.
So even on a calm day, there's a lot going on beneath the surface.
Absolutely. And then you factor in the cold water temperatures.
Right. Hypothermia is a real concern, even in the summer months.
Definitely. And then there's the weather. We've talked about the storms and the fog. But Lake Michigan is also prone to something called a meteorological tsunami.
Oh, what? That sounds intense.
They're also sometimes called seiches.
Sage?
Yeah. It's basically a sudden change in water level caused by rapid shifts in air pressure or strong winds.
So like a mini tsunami?
Kind of. They can create waves that travel across the lake, causing localized flooding and unpredictable currents.
So you could be sailing along thinking everything's fine, and then bam!
Yeah.
You're hit with a wall of water.
Exactly. And those waves can be powerful enough to capsize even large boats.
That's terrifying.
It is, and it's one of the reasons why Lake Michigan is so unpredictable.
Okay, so we've got the depth, the cold, the storms, the fog, and now these meteorological tsunamis. Anything else we should be worried about?
Well, there are also underwater currents and sandbars that can shift without warning.
So even experienced boaters could run into trouble if they're not careful.
Absolutely. And if you combine all of these factors, it's not hard to see how a boat could get into trouble very quickly.
Especially in an area like the Triangle where there are so many reports of disappearances.
Exactly. So while the paranormal theories are definitely intriguing, we can't forget that Lake Michigan is a force of nature that demands respect.
Well said. So let's talk about those magnetic anomalies. Are they a real thing? Could they actually be messing with navigation in the Triangle?
So magnetic anomalies are definitely real.
Okay.
They're areas where the Earth's magnetic field is kind of distorted,
Gotcha.
and they can be caused by various things like geological formations or deposits of iron ore.
Interesting. So are you saying that there could be magnetic anomalies in the Lake Michigan Triangle?
It's possible. Some researchers believe that the geological makeup of the area could be conducive to creating these anomalies.
Okay, so let's say there are magnetic anomalies in the triangle. How would they affect ships or planes?
Well, the theory is that these magnetic distortions could interfere with navigation systems, especially compasses.
So a ship's compass could be giving false readings.
Exactly. And that could lead them off course, potentially into dangerous waters.
And if that happens in a storm or in low visibility conditions,
Yeah.
it could be disastrous.
Right. Now, the strength of these anomalies and their potential impact on navigation is still debated,
Okay.
but it's definitely a factor worth considering.
All right, so we've got the natural dangers of the lake. We've got the possibility of magnetic anomalies. But what about those lights in the sky? The ones that people keep reporting?
Yeah, the lights are a tough one to explain.
They are. Especially when you consider the fact that many of these reports come from credible witnesses.
Right. We're talking about pilots, law enforcement officers, people who are trained to observe and report accurately.
And they're describing these lights moving in ways that defy conventional aircraft capabilities.
Exactly. So it's hard to just brush it off as misidentification or weather phenomena.
So what are we left with? Are these UFOs? Are we talking about some kind of interdimensional portal?
Well, those are some of the more out there theories. But there are also more grounded explanations that have been proposed.
Like what?
Well, some researchers believe that these lights could be a form of ball lightning.
Ball lightning, isn't that pretty rare?
It is, but it's a real phenomenon.
Okay.
It's basically a glowing sphere of plasma that can occur during thunderstorms.
Interesting. So you're saying that these lights could be a natural phenomenon.
It's possible. And there are other possibilities too, like strange atmospheric conditions that could create optical illusions.
It's like mirages or something.
Exactly. Or it could be something completely different, something that we haven't even discovered yet.
So we're basically back to the unknown.
In a way, yeah. The lights in the sky remain one of the most enduring and perplexing mysteries of the Lake Michigan Triangle.
And that's what makes it so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's a place where the known and the unknown collide, where the boundaries of reality seem to blur.
Absolutely. And that's what keeps people coming back year after year trying to make sense of it all.
Okay, so we've got strange lights, we've got possible magnetic anomalies, and of course we've got the natural dangers of the lake itself. But there's one more piece of the puzzle that we haven't really talked about yet. The human element.
Right. The people who have been lost in the triangle.
Exactly. Their stories, their experiences, and the impact that these disappearances have had on their families and communities.
You know, for every unexplained incident, there are real people who are left behind wondering what happened and why.
And I think it's important to remember that as we explore these mysteries, we're not just talking about abstract concepts or spooky stories.
We're talking about real lives that have been touched by tragedy.
And that's something that we should never forget.
When we talk about the human element,
Yeah.
You know, we got to avoid talking about Flight 2501.
Oh, man. Flight 2501, that one's a real heartbreaker.
It is. It's probably the most well-known tragedy associated with the Lake Michigan Triangle.
Yeah, it's the one that really cemented the triangle's reputation as a place where things just vanish.
Definitely. A DC-4 airliner carrying 58 people just gone without a trace.
And it happened on a clear night, too, right?
Well, not exactly. It was June of 1950, and there were reports of thunderstorms in the area.
Okay. But still, a modern airliner just disappearing like that. It's hard to wrap your head around it.
It is, especially when you consider that they never found the wreckage.
Right. There was some debris recovered, but no major parts of the plane. No black boxes.
Which makes it even more difficult to figure out what happened.
So what are the leading theories? What do experts think happened to Flight 2501?
Well, the most common explanations are the usual suspects. You know, mechanical failure, pilot error, severe weather.
Okay, so maybe the plane got caught in a downdraft or was struck by lightning.
It's possible, but what's strange is that there were no distress calls from the plane.
Yeah, you'd think that if they were experiencing problems, the pilots would have radioed for help.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that has baffled investigators for decades. The radio silence is just eerie.
So maybe whatever happened so quickly that they didn't have time to react.
That's one possibility. Or maybe something interfered with their communications.
Now we're getting back into the realm of the unknown.
Well, it's not entirely out of the question. We've talked about magnetic anomalies and how they could potentially affect electronic systems.
Right. So maybe a magnetic anomaly disrupted the plane's radio signals?
It's possible. Or maybe there was some other factor, some unknown force that we don't understand.
That's something that caused a sudden and catastrophic failure.
Right. We just don't know. And that's the thing about the Lake Michigan Triangle. There's so many unanswered questions.
It's a place where the line between the explainable and the unexplainable gets really blurry.
It is. And I think that's what draws people to it. It's that sense of mystery, that possibility that there are things in this world that we just can't comprehend.
Yeah, it's like a giant puzzle with missing pieces.
Exactly. And we may never find all the pieces, but the search itself is fascinating.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about the history of the Lake Michigan Triangle, the strange disappearances, the various theories, the eyewitness accounts.
It's been a wild ride.
It has. But I think it's safe to say that we've only just scratched the surface of this mystery.
Oh, yeah. There's so much more to explore.
Absolutely.
hmm
But for now, I think it's time to wrap things up. So what do you think? Is the Lake Michigan Triangle just a collection of unfortunate coincidences? Or is there something more to it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is. And I guess the answer depends on who you ask and what you're willing to believe.
Exactly. But whether you believe in the paranormal or you're a diehard skeptic, there's no denying that the Lake Michigan Triangle is a fascinating and enigmatic place.
Well said. Well, that's it for this deep dive into the Lake Michigan Triangle. We hope you enjoyed the journey.
Thanks for joining us.
And as always, please like, subscribe, and comment below and let us know your thoughts. We love hearing from you. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.